and welcome to the Dynamic Duel Podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we are going to review The Amazing Spider-Man, which came out in 2012. Joining us for this review is the Media Night with the Boys podcast, hosted by Zach Hepburn and John Starosky, who also happen to be executive producers of this show. They've had their podcast going for about 7 months now. They're around 30 episodes. We're super excited to have them join us later on this episode.
Yeah, I didn't hate the movie as much as I thought I was going to. This was my first time watching it, and yeah, it'll be fun to talk about.
You just liked it because you went in with low expectations from everybody talking shit about it.
Yeah, I went in with bare bottom expectations, absolutely.
Before we discuss the film, we're going to go over the comic book movie news to have come out in the past week, including all the big news that came out from D23. So much Marvel news, and also we got a trailer for this dinky little film called Black Adam.
Yeah, a real movie trailer, unlike all the TV small screen stuff we got from D23.
I mean, you're not wrong. We'll be discussing the Secret Invasion official trailer, the Werewolf by Night official trailer, and then the reveals of the Thunderbolts team and who the villain will be for Captain America New World Order.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Don't forget, guys, to join us on Patreon, where we offer ad-free episodes of the show, bonus content, including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month.
And for $10 a month, you can become an executive producer of the show and help us determine our episode content.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. A No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question came off the news that Trevor Slattery will be appearing in the Wonder Man Disney Plus television series. So we asked, who would you cast as Wonder Man for the upcoming show? And we got a lot of good answers.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to see everyone conjecture on who could be starring opposite Sir Ben Kingsley. We have 3 honorable mentions and a no prize winner to announce, so let's get into it. Our first honorable mention goes to Brandon Estergard, who said,
"Hey guys, well, I'm stuck in an elevator, so I thought I might as well answer the question of the week. I definitely would cast Andy Samberg as Wonder Man. I feel like he would definitely nail the role."
And this is actually true, Brandon. Our patron was trapped in an elevator this past week for a little over an hour, I think. Poor guy.
That would suck.
Yeah. But remember, guys, you don't have to be trapped in an elevator to spare the time to call in with your answer. We're glad you're okay, Brandon. And when I first heard your answer, I thought it was like a funny answer until I started really thinking about it. We know that Andy Samberg has television star clout from his role on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And yeah, he doesn't really look like a superhero, although he did get pretty buff for his Lonely Island Bash Brothers video.
Oh, really? I was going to say, yeah, he'd definitely have to bulk up, but if he has some history of that, that's awesome.
And it's always hard for me to get past like the wild hair he had during his SNL days. But, for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's pretty trim. In Popstar, it was pretty close cut. I think that if they are going the direction of a Hollywood culture parody for the show, you could do no wrong with Andy Samberg, who, of course, did a parody of the music industry with the movie Popstar. I think this works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at all. I don't hate it at all. Andy Samberg is a pretty funny guy, and if they want to make this show a comedy, then yeah, he should definitely be considered. Our next honorable mention goes to Matt Estes, who said,
"Hey guys, Matt Estes here. Hey, my answer for the question of the week, who should play Wonder Man? It's gotta be Henry Cavill, especially with all the rumors coming out in the past few days that Marvel has signed him. I think he would be great in that role."
So this answer is actually not an honorable mention. It's a dishonorable mention.
What?
No. Because
it's totally
how dare
valid.
you? How dare you, sir? No.
Of course, there were a lot of rumors going around before D23 happened that Henry Cavill has been signed to play a role for Marvel Studios. And while that may or may not be true, it certainly was not announced at the D23 Expo, which is one of the reasons why, folks, Jonathan and I never really discuss rumors too much because they're rarely true. It's better to just wait for the official announcement either from the studio or from a report from the trade publications.
Yeah, that way you're just not speculating craziness.
Yeah, but Matt Estes has a point. Wonder Man is certainly based off of the character of Superman in the comics, although, he doesn't have a cape and he's made of ionic energy and stuff. So, pretty different otherwise. But he looks like Superman. So get the guy that fucking played Superman to play Wonder Man and stick it to DC. It's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
I'm kind of torn because I really liked Henry Cavill as Superman. That said, I don't think he's ever coming back to the role. But even so, it would just be so heartbreaking to see him as a Marvel character. I would feel so betrayed.
I hope he plays Hyperion.
That's the one role where I would be like, okay, I guess this works because I don't know.
We had another listener call in with the same answer, Jose Marcial.
And our final honorable mention goes to Noah Terry, who said,
"Hey guys, and if I had to pick someone to play Wonder Man in the MCU, I would have to say Robbie Amell. I think his look is just perfect for the character. I think he'd fit the bill perfectly. I'd be really excited to see him in all future installments if he ever came back in the MCU. So, Robbie Amell, that's my answer. Thanks. Bye, guys."
Yeah, so Robbie Amell is the younger brother of Stephen Amell, who played Green Arrow in the Arrow television series on the CW. Robbie was also in the CW. He played Ronnie Raymond, aka Firestorm, in the first season of The Flash. And I think this is actually a great casting choice. I think he looks a lot like Wonder Man does in the comic.
Well, he kind of has that cocky grin going about him, and he certainly has the build as well. It'll be interesting. He's gotten some pretty high-profile parts within the last few years, and we know that he has TV experience, so he could definitely play Wonder Man.
Yeah, I think so. But we want to give a quick shout out to Benjamin Ryan, Jose Marcial, Landon Parker, and Levi Yeaton for taking the time to visit our website and submit a no prize answer. The winner, however, of this week's no prize is John Speas, who said,
"Hi guys, John Speas here. My pick for a potential Wonder Man would actually be Zac Efron. I think he's got the looks to be a believable leading man, obviously, because he's done that, and he's built pretty big, and Wonder Man kind of also has that look. So I actually think Zac Efron would be a good pick."
All right, I know what some of you may be thinking. Really, the High School Musical guy? But hear me out. Zac Efron, I think, would be the best for the role because of his experience in both action and comedy. And, most importantly, he recently broke the fuck out of his jaw, which entirely changed the shape of his face. So he actually has a broader face that would suit the character well.
Yeah, I think he's always been a pretty good actor, both for dramatic roles and comedic roles, like you mentioned. So I could totally see him doing this. That said, I'd rather have him for Hal Jordan. So you can't have him. He's my man.
Girl, you can have him if you want, but I'm just saying he'd be good for Wonder Man.
I mean, I'm a boy, but thanks.
So congrats to John Speas for winning this week's No Prize. If you guys don't know, John co-hosts the Blast from Our Past podcast, which is another great show that has also guested on Dynamic Duel, and he and his brother Adam are good friends of the show. There was no favoritism in the choosing of this winner, though. Just
put that out there. I mean, John and his brother Adam regularly do casting segments on their podcast, so it's kind of no surprise that he's really good at casting roles. John Speas also happens to have another podcast that he started recently, Comics Underground, that I just did a guest spot for. Him and I broke down Alan Moore's 2-part issue series, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It was good times. I really enjoyed the episode. Definitely check it out if you're a comic book fan.
And in regards to the no prize, remember that if you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own no prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so last Thursday during the football game, Dwayne Johnson unleashed the second official trailer for the Black Adam film, and it is amazing. Like, I am officially on board the hype train for this movie. This is the trailer that I've wanted to see all along.
It was really good. It had everything you wanted from The Rock in terms of him being a badass, and all the spectacle you got to see from the Justice Society. I actually really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off kind of like all the other trailers have started off, with him talking about how his son sacrificed himself for his father. But after that, holy cow, we get to see The Rock lay down some fools, like hardcore, using like all of his powers, which is really something we haven't seen too often, I feel like, in these superhero movies. Like superheroes using their powers full force against humans.
Yeah, without mercy.
Yeah, it definitely sells this whole concept of Black Adam being violent, you know, because the Rock keeps touting that. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm seeing that in the trailer so much. But yeah, this is exciting stuff here.
Yeah, he's definitely a man of violence in this trailer. And I think seeing him do that does a good job of setting up why the Justice Society is bent on taking him down.
Yeah, we hear Hawkman talking with freaking Amanda Waller, of all people. I did not see that coming. That was a huge surprise.
Why would she be involved with the Justice Society?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. I think they're kind of using her in a Nick Fury kind of way to establish some of these DC characters. It lends them credibility, right? If she's seen with them, it kind of lends some legitimacy because we know that she's super connected within like the superhuman universe.
It helps further establish ties to the greater DCEU.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she's never really had ties to the Justice Society in the comics, but she has started her own Justice League of America team. And I think for general audiences, this works. I don't mind it. Viola Davis is still amazing as Amanda Waller, I think. So anytime she pops up, I'm there for it.
Well, the rumors initially were that the Suicide Squad film would have the team try to extract Black Adam from the island they visited as opposed to Starro, which James Gunn ended up going with.
I think in Gavin O'Connor's Suicide Squad, back when he was helming that film, they were going to go into Kahndaq, actually, to overthrow Black Adam.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe they borrowed some elements of that script for this film. I'm not sure. But I still think it's a pretty cool concept either way, whether it's the JSA or the Suicide Squad.
Why is this movie ripping off X-Men with the jet that comes out of the X-Mansion?
I think everyone thought that.
Explain yourself.
I mean, in the comics, the JSA doesn't have like a Hall of Justice or a satellite watchtower or anything like that. They have, the Brownstone, which is like a brick building. Making it this like mansion, I think is pretty cool. And they need a jet, so why not have it? It's ripping off the X-Men, but you know what? We did it better.
No, you didn't. You did it the exact same.
I mean, yeah, the exact same, but better. We get to see quite a bit more of Hawkman and Dr. Fate. Hawkman has this really cool antimetal weapon that can transform from like a mace to like a battle axe.
That was really cool. I hope they do something like that in the comic books. Now, we've known that there was a version of Hawkman that had like antimetal blood in his veins or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But I like this idea more of having it be more like Jane Foster Valkyrie's Vambrace.
Oh, from the comics?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I think that's really cool. We also get to see Dr. Fate doing some more battling. He drops like this giant shiny crystal Ankh on Black Adam a number of times, which is awesome. We also get to see a little bit more of Atom Smasher, being really big, like skyscraper big, which is really cool. But the coolest thing I think about this trailer was that we actually got to see the villain, Sabak, who's this demon villain from the comics. Hawkman's fighting him. We'll probably get to see, the entire Justice Society fight him as well as Black Adam. The whole movie looks like it's going to be so fantastic and so action heavy. I cannot wait to see this on the big screen, especially that last shot of Black Adam with all the explosions behind him. Holy crap, that's going to be so intense in the theater.
That was definitely a vibe. That was a great splash page shot,
The movie comes out pretty soon here. Black Adam drops October 21st. This, of course, is the last DC film that we'll get this year. Again, Shazam has been pushed to next year. And after that, we're getting Aquaman and who knows what the heck else. Because DC still doesn't have a head of its film division. Dan Lin recently dropped out of the running for the role, which is really sad. But
Warner Brothers Discovery fucking dropped the ball on that one.
But hopefully we get an announcement for a new contender soon. And hopefully they'll put more movies like Black Adam looks like it will be on the slate. Because this is badass.
Don't you wish that DC had some kind of like event where they talked about the dozen or so projects that they had lined up, making like announcements and like showing trailers and stuff like that? Because now we're going to talk about the news that came out of the D23 Expo in regards to Marvel Studios. There was a whole lot that wasn't announced that fans were expecting, perhaps foolishly. This is why we shouldn't believe everything we read on the internet. But I was pleasantly surprised. It felt like San Diego Comic-Con all over, where with Comic-Con we got Marvel's slate through Phase 6, and here we got more information about a lot of those projects. There was a Wakanda Forever panel with the cast where they showed some footage, an Ant-Man Quantumania panel with footage, Werewolf by Night, Loki Season 2, Echo, Daredevil Born Again, Captain America New World Order, Thunderbolts, Secret Invasion, and The Marvels. It's a lot of projects to cover. There was also a Fantastic Four panel, but there was no casting news. They just officially announced Matt Shakman as the director. Apparently casting is still in progress for that. But let's talk about the big stuff. We got an amazing trailer for the upcoming Secret Invasion television series that's coming to Disney Plus in 2023. It stars Samuel Jackson looking badass in his role as Nick Fury within the series. I'm really happy with how this show is turning out.
Yeah, it looks really Nick Fury heavy. I didn't realize he was going to be the star of the show.
It looks like the Nick Fury movie I've always wanted to see, even though this is a show. That's even better, because that means it's even longer. But it's really unlike the comics, which was like this mega crossover event. Here, they're playing it much more intimate and subtle, and with so much paranoia and conspiracy, definitely reminiscent of the tension that was in Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Well, yeah, in the comics, the Skrulls were taking over a bunch of superheroes.
Yeah, the Illuminati discovered that when one of their own turned out to be a Skrull.
But here it looks more like they're invading, like, maybe governments or something like that, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, who knows what their motivation is here, though. We see that Nick Fury is working with Maria Hill again, as well as Talos, the Skrull from the Captain Marvel movie, played by Ben Mendelsohn. There was a great moment with Ben Mendelsohn's character when he reaches over to attack the guy sitting across from him, and then it turns out that everyone in the restaurant that they're at is a Skrull, because they all shapeshift to look like the guy he's talking to. Right. That was a great moment where it gave you the feeling that you can't trust anything, basically. And that's exactly what this series should be. It's exactly the kind of situation that Nick Fury is great in. We see Martin Freeman is back as Everett K. Ross.
Yeah, and we get to see some Emilia Clarke as well. I honestly thought that she was going to be the star and that we were going to see a lot more of her in this trailer. And who knows, maybe, she has more screen time than Nick Fury, actually. But I really get no sense of who her character is just yet.
Nor do I. I've heard rumors, but it hasn't been officially announced who she is cast as. But I'm sure she's working close with Nick Fury. He needs to keep his team close to the vest when situations call more for espionage than a full-on battle.
It looks like it's going to be a really good show. I'm looking forward to this. I wasn't before, but this trailer totally sold me.
It became one of my most anticipated projects that they're working on. And I'm excited that we get it, in about 4 to 6 months or so.
Yeah, She-Hulk is going on right now.
Well, it's She-Hulk, the Werewolf by Night special, Guardians of the Galaxy special. Then I think it's Secret Invasion, followed by Echo and Loki Season 2. And Ironheart. A whole bunch of projects.
Yeah.
But speaking of Werewolf by Night, as good as the Secret Invasion trailer was, nothing blew me away more than the Werewolf by Night trailer. It was so unexpected, so unlike anything else we've ever seen from Marvel Studios. It was perhaps an inspired choice to have composer Michael Giacchino direct this. Whoever heard of a film composer in the director chair? But here it is, and while it may perhaps look like something that a film student would make, sometimes you get some of the most crazy, amazing stuff from film students.
And that's kind of the whole point of it, right? It's like a low-budget grindhouse kind of film.
Yeah, well, it started out looking more like a Universal monster film. It's all in black and white. It looks really spooky. But then as it progressed, it was almost like it transformed from a classic monster film into a grindhouse horror, which I think is kind of a brilliant amalgamation.
I didn't know what to expect for Werewolf by Night, honestly, but I could say this absolutely was not it.
No.
This has to be the most surprising thing I've ever seen Marvel do, and I'm kind of all there for it. Marvel doesn't really do too much genre stuff this heavily, lean into it this much. And I'm kind of excited to see where this goes. A little apprehensive maybe, but if they could pull this off, kudos to them, because this looks legit interesting and legit scary. Honestly, when I watched it for the first time, it was on my TV, and I was kind of just laughing the whole time because I was like, what the hell is this? But towards the end, when the film burns, I just glanced over at my daughters and they were terrified.
Yes.
They had never seen anything like this before. They're not familiar with grindhouse at all. So It was just so different and kind of disturbing. I know Kevin Feige mentioned that this was going to be poltergeist level scary. And I don't know if I like that, but I'm proud that Marvel's doing it.
Well, let's be real. Just because it's creative and unique doesn't mean it's going to be good. I think at the very least, Marvel should be commended for taking a big swing like this.
For sure.
Apparently the premise is a bunch of monster hunters get together, and it turns out that one of them themselves is a monster. Of course, that's probably Jack Russell. I don't know if his name is actually Jack Russell in the show, but it is in the comics, played by Gael Garcia Bernal. One of the other hunters is actually Elsa Bloodstone. She's the lady in the leather jacket. So we see Elsa fucking Bloodstone in this show.
Holy shit.
She does act a little bit more scared than I would think Elsa Bloodstone would act, especially toward the end of this trailer, because Elsa Bloodstone is more of a badass. If you don't know anything about her and want to learn more, definitely pick up some of her comics or listen to our Frankenstein versus Elsa Bloodstone duel episode.
I loved that episode. That was a good one.
I wonder if they're going to tie in Blade into this special, considering that he's also a monster hunter, specifically a vampire hunter.
Right.
And I wonder if we're going to see a glimpse of Moon Knight, considering that it was the Werewolf by Night comics that Moon Knight first made his comic book debut.
I don't know if we're going to see Moon Knight. I hope we see Blade. We're definitely going to see Man-Thing.
Yeah! Man-Thing is in this. And you know what? He looks even better than he did in the Man-Thing sci-fi movie in 2005. And he looked fantastic in that movie. One day we're going to review that, but oh man, straight out of the comic books with his tentacle face and everything like that, his claws. This looks so wonderful. I cannot wait. It put me right in the Halloween spirit as soon as I saw it. And crazy enough, we only have to wait like less than a month for it to come out. That's insane. It comes out October 7th, so we will be reviewing it on this podcast in just a few weeks.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to have to do some kind of tie-in duel. I don't know.
I don't know if we'll have time because that's also around episode 300, and Black Adam is coming out then, and She-Hulk ends around then too.
October is going to be a busy month.
Yeah. But that did it for the trailers that came out from D23. They were all great. It was hard to gauge what was the best trailer for Marvel and DC to come out in the past couple of weeks, but that brings us to our question of the week.
What was your favorite Marvel or DC trailer to come out in the past week? Black Adam, Secret Invasion, or Werewolf by Night? And why?
It'll be tough to pick, but we're excited to hear your answers. Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before September 17th. In other Marvel news, it was announced at D23 who is going to be on the Thunderbolts team for the film that comes out on July 26, 2024, in a couple of years. Some of these characters we had already suspected, considering they were listed on the Deadline report. But of course, we have Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow, leading the team, which consists of Red Guardian, the Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent, Ghost, Taskmaster, and Contessa Valentina Allegra da Fontaine.
Which is a pretty solid team, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I do wish it was a little bit different. Like, I would replace Red Guardian on the team because I don't think you need another super soldier when you already have the Winter Soldier and U.S. Agent. So I would have replaced Red Guardian with Hawkeye, considering that he's always been one of my favorite Thunderbolt characters when he led the second iteration of the team. And then I would have replaced the Contessa, who I don't think she's actually going to fight on the team. She's going to be more of a Nick Fury type person. But I would have replaced her with Baron Zemo, who, of course, created the Thunderbolts in the comics.
That's true. Actually, I like your team a lot more, especially because it's more comics accurate.
Right. Baron Zemo, Ghost, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent, Taskmaster. I think I would have got more excited for that. Nevertheless, I am still excited for this. It'll be nice, especially for characters like Ghost and Taskmaster, who were shortchanged in their own films, to kind of get redemption. I think I was mostly surprised when this team was revealed at how much this feels like a sequel to Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but more Black Widow because it has like 4 characters from that movie.
Right, yeah. It has Black Widow, Red Guardian. Black Widow was the first time we ever saw the Contessa and Taskmaster.
Right.
I wonder who they're going to go up against. I still think that it would be cool if they were secretly working for Doctor Doom. That's just my theory.
That would be cool, considering that we've conjectured that the Contessa is actually working for Latveria. But if I had to pick, I would want them to go up against Baron Zemo. That way he's at least involved in some capacity in this film. Because it would be a shame to leave him out.
True, yeah.
In our last bit of Marvel news, we learned that the villain of Captain America New World Order is going to be The Leader. Now, this is the film that stars Anthony Mackie as the titular character. To my knowledge, Sam Wilson and Samuel Stearns, the Leader, have not had much involvement in the comics. I could be wrong. The Leader is typically a Hulk villain, and of course he was first introduced in the Incredible Hulk film starring Edward Norton. Finally, after all these years, after over a decade, he's coming back to the MCU, just like the Abomination did in the She-Hulk television show. We're going to see him go up against Captain America. And honestly, I'm a little bit bummed because I thought he was going to be the surprise bad guy in the She-Hulk television show.
Sam, I haven't seen a single episode of that yet. But yeah, I thought he was going to make an appearance in that show, considering it was kind of a dangling thread that was left over from, the MCU's second movie ever.
Right, and The Leader ties in heavily to Jennifer Walters' cousin, Bruce Banner. So that's strange and disappointing. It is nice to see Marvel pick up these loose threads, though. And I'm excited to see what this new Captain America movie is going to be like.
Yeah, honestly, even though I think this is kind of weird, I'm totally there just to see Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns again. Tim Blake Nelson is a great actor, and I really want to see what he could do as, the main villain of a superhero film.
Captain America New World Order comes out in a couple years, May 3rd, 2024. So we have a ways before it comes out, but I'll be waiting on pins and needles to see what the Leader is going to look like.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
But I think that does it for all the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and get on to our main event, where we get Media Night with the boys, Zachary Hepburn and John Starosky on the line, and discuss the 2012 film, The Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012 and was directed by Mark Webb and stars Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Rhys Ifans. The movie served as a reboot to the 2002 Sam Raimi franchise starring Tobey Maguire, and while the reboot wasn't successful, we were able to see both Garfield and Maguire again in the fairly recent Spider-Man No Way Home movie starring Tom Holland. It was cool watching the boys do a crossover. And speaking of the boys, we're doing a crossover of our own with Media Night with the Boys podcast, hosted by our own esteemed executive producers, John Starosky and Zachary Hepburn. Say hello, guys.
Sup.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have had your own show now for a few months now. You guys have 30 episodes under your belt or something?
We started in February. I think we're pushing 30 pretty soon.
Okay.
I think, we just put out our 27th. So, we're getting there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I recently guested actually on your podcast. We reviewed The Gray Man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that movie.
I still haven't seen it, so I still haven't listened to it.
Well, you should watch it.
I should. Tell us a little bit more about your podcast, Media Night with the Boys, formerly known as Movie Night with the Boys.
So, yeah, we used to be Movie Night with the Boys. We kind of first started off just doing movies. We didn't really have a structure as to what movies we were picking. Then we started to organize it a little bit better, and then we kind of delved into television. And from there, we started going into video games. And then, we recently came up to the idea of Media Night because we're not just doing movies anymore. Obviously, with television, video games, we're going to talk about music now. We're going to talk about basically anything we consume media-wise every week.
Yeah.
Nice. So. I like the music angle, too. I didn't know you guys were going to do that.
Yeah, I actually have a degree in music management, so I have a background. And John used to manage a band, so we both have backgrounds with music. So
fucking pros over here. Nice.
Nice.
Well, since Dynamic Duel is a Marvel vs. DC podcast, we like to ask each of our guests which side they prefer. Now, I already know the answer to this question for both of you because you're executive producers of Dynamic Duel, but let's let our listeners hear. So starting with John, what's your favorite comic company and why is it Marvel?
Well, it obviously has to be Marvel because DC sucks. But Marvel's just better for me. I've actually enjoyed more of their media overall and for a longer time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I started with Batman 89, but after that, it was kind of just Marvel. I mean, X-Men, Spider-Man. I even enjoy the horrible movies that everyone else hates, like, Ghost Rider.
Which Ghost Rider?
I actually liked them both, but I can't say I hated the first one more than the second one.
Yeah, I have a special place in my heart for the second one, Spirit of Vengeance. And eventually we'll review that movie. Maybe we'll have you on as guests. I don't see why we wouldn't. So let's go ahead and book that now.
Yeah.
But Zach, same question. What's your favorite comic company and why is it Marvel?
Well,
tell him, Zach.
It's not Marvel, right? I'm a DC guy. Me and Johnny DC over here. We repping the blue.
Represent.
I just grew up with Batman. You know, I'm a fan of both. I consume everything, right? If it has superheroes in it, I'm all about it. But I definitely prefer to read the DC comics more than Marvel comics. Like, if you look at my collection of comics, it's like hundreds of DC comics, and then my Marvel comics are like House of M, Civil War, Spider-Verse. Very, very limited.
Oh, so it's about quantity, not quality, is what you're saying.
No, it's about both.
No, it's both, because DC just has hundreds of good stories, whereas I think, to me, Marvel has only a couple.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Cut his feed. John, cut his feed.
I do have to say that Zach has probably the most impressive Blu-ray collection of DC animated films that I've ever seen.
He has the most impressive everything collection, I think.
I mean, look behind him.
That's true.
Except Funko Pops, because I think Brandon has you beat there.
Yes, 100%. I just buy what I've liked, and I maybe like too much stuff. But yeah, I'm not a Funko collector by any means. But I mean, yeah, I own every single DC movie. I own every single MCU movie.
I don't want to hear that.
I'm sorry, dude, but I mean, it's part of my collection. I'm sorry.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for being on our show. We're always grateful to our executive producers, and I think it's really awesome that you guys started your own show. I know that on your podcast, you guys don't do reviews per se, but we're going to get pretty critical here of this movie with this spoiler review of The Amazing Spider-Man. Spoiler alert right away, I don't care for this movie. Apparently, though, I'm the minority.
Yeah, because both me and John enjoy this movie. It's actually like Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man. So
yeah, let's talk about that. So we've had 3 main live action Spider-Man within the past couple of decades. Let's talk about who your favorite Spider-Man is and why. John, let's start with you.
So here's the thing. You got Spider-Man, you got Peter Parker. And to me, not having followed comics, they're 2 different characters. I like Spider-Man being played by Tobey. Mm-hmm. I like Spider-Man being played by Andrew. I like Peter being played by Tobey, but not Andrew. The only one that I like both of is Tom Holland.
Okay, so you're on Team Holland.
Safely, yes.
Zach, how about you?
Well, Andrew Garfield's my favorite Spider-Man. I just think, like, when he's wearing the suit, all the quipping, to me, Peter Parker just doesn't seem like he's a kid per se, like when he's in the suit, right? So when Tom Holland's doing it, he sounds like his voice still needs to, like, drop, right? And then Tobey Maguire just didn't really... I don't think he really quipped that much, unless I'm just completely forgetting, right?
No, he didn't.
So for that reason, that's why I kind of like Andrew Garfield.
Jonathan, what about you?
This is kind of a tough choice because I really do like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I agree with John in that maybe his Peter Parker was a little out of character from what I know from the comics. I'm going to go with Tobey Maguire, though, just based off nostalgia. I think that does it for me. You're the tiebreaker, apparently.
Yeah, surprisingly, even though the Amazing Spider-Man franchise is probably my least favorite Spider-Man franchise, I'm leaning toward Andrew Garfield because he's not as naive as Tom Holland's version of the character, but he also doesn't have the horrible case of Tobey Maguire face syndrome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think if Andrew Garfield was given the chance to continue the franchise, he would have grown into an amazing, mature Peter Parker that I think we all want to eventually see. But I'm at least glad we got to see a bit of that in No Way Home.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, the Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, I don't love for quite a few reasons, but I think most of all, the Amazing Spider-Man movie taught us that when it comes to rebooting franchises, retelling the origin story is not needed or wanted. It's something that the Fantastic Stick movie screwed up on too. I think one of the reasons why that was so unsuccessful was because it rehashed a story that people already knew from just the franchise a few years ago.
Yeah, I still never saw that one, so I don't have any reference on that. Okay. But
good.
Yeah. I don't need the origin story that everybody knows. That's kind of where Homecoming came to its strength because it didn't start off with, hey, by the way, Uncle Ben's dead, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Like, it just omitted it, which I liked.
Right.
I was actually kind of surprised that Homecoming didn't touch on any aspect of his origin, but I agree it was probably better for it.
Yeah, and hopefully when the Fantastic Four go into the MCU, they kind of just bypass that origin as well. Because I don't think we need it. I think we want to see the heroes in action as soon as possible in these films. And when general audiences already know the story being told, having to sit through all that again feels like a chore, especially when the reboot has to hit a lot of the same story beats. Peter Parker gets bit by the spider. He learns how to use his powers. He uses them irresponsibly. Uncle Ben then teaches him about responsibility. Then Uncle Ben gets shot. Peter goes out on a costume-seeking revenge. Some scientist dude experiments on himself, goes insane, and turns into a green-colored bad guy. Does that sound familiar to you? Which movie am I talking about there?
Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man, the first one.
Yes, that's one of the things that I think went wrong with this film.
I somewhat agree with you, but then I take a look at a film like Man of Steel, which retold the origin of Superman in a different way than Richard Donner's Superman the movie.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's okay to retread.
There's a statute of limitations on this, though.
Oh.
I'm thinking like 20 years minimum is what you got to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I wouldn't say I loved this movie. I definitely think it's not amazing, as the title suggests. Maybe like Dour Spider-Man. That should have been the name. I don't know. But I also didn't hate it as much as I thought it would, because people have been shitting on this movie ever since it came out. And it's one of the reasons why I never saw it. Actually, I saw it for the first time this morning, and I kept waiting to hate it. I was like an hour, 15 minutes into the movie, and I was like, that's weird. I still don't hate this movie yet. You know, I definitely think it was like a Zack Snyder-y Man of Steel approach to the character, like darker approach. So maybe that's why I liked it, because I just kind of like those movies.
The bad ones, yeah.
The dark ones, fuck you. And, you know, as far as like an origin rehash, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you at all.
Well, you're also watching this movie 10 years after it came out, so it's probably been a while since you've seen Spider-Man's origin story.
True.
We'll just say that you're wrong.
I actually didn't have any problems with it. I know, like, it is kind of annoying, and I didn't like how there was no wrestling aspect to the origin, right? But again, they were trying to change it up a bit. But this origin story was a little closer to the Ultimate comic book Spider-Man origin, right? Because it's the same, like, convenience store type thing.
And Oscorp with the spiders.
Right. And I kind of like the Ultimate universe, right? So
yeah.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah, okay, so for those who may not know what the Ultimate Universe is, basically in the early 2000s, Marvel came out with a new line of comic books that essentially rebooted their entire superhero universe as a way to attract new readers who likely wouldn't pick up something that was bogged down in continuity.
I just want to point out it's a total ripoff of the Earth 2 concept. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I will also point that out because it is true.
Anyway, we're talking about Amazing Spider-Man.
You got nothing.
I got nothing. I don't even know what Earth 2 is, so I'm just going to believe you guys. But in regards to the origin, this movie, when it came out, was marketed as, quote, the untold story of Spider-Man, which is hilarious to me because the big new origin story element that it introduced, you know, the mysterious opening scene with Peter Parker's parents, that doesn't even get revisited until the second film. So they introduced this mystery here and failed to resolve it.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised because, you know, it's Spider-Man. Of course, they're going to be making new Spider-Man movies. So they probably figured they had a film saga that they were going to establish and flesh out.
Duh. Don't make excuses for them. They didn't know that this was going to be a hit. I don't believe that. I think if you're going to introduce a mystery element in your film, you should at least bring it up at least another time within your movie. You know, in the second film, we got the weird thing with the subway tokens, and he goes down and he finds his dad's lab and everything like that when he was fucking the spiders. And that's what I assume he was doing because, you know, we learned that the reason Peter Parker got spider powers in this movie is because his dad put his DNA into the spiders to genetically engineer them. So he's having sex with all these spiders, putting his DNA into them. And then Peter later gets bit by them and hence becomes Spider-Man. I think one of the things that this movie really fucking butchered was the costume.
Oh, man.
I hate it.
It's horrible. It is really bad.
Not good. Probably my least favorite Spider-Man costume to date.
Oh, hands down.
Absolutely. You know, I used to think that you can't really touch the overall design of that outfit and still have it be like Spider-Man. But I was proven wrong when I saw Tom Holland's version of the outfit, which had some embellishments on it given to him by Tony Stark. At one point, we saw him wearing the black and red costume, and that was totally fine by me. There was something about this Amazing Spider-Man costume specifically. I don't know if it's like the fucking racing stripes on the side or the yellow lenses. It's just something about the webbing and the material. It just makes it look like ass.
It looked cheaper to me. Just like the material, the quality of the material was not as good as other Spider-Man costumes. It looked more rubbery than spandex.
And he had sneaker soles.
When I watched this movie again it was only the second time ever yesterday, I became convinced that the only reason Mark Webb was hired to direct the film was because of his last name. Because there were some terrible directing choices in a lot of aspects.
For sure.
Or maybe the film just had the world's worst editor, but I'd give them the benefit of the doubt over the director, considering the editor was probably just working with the best options they had. But rewatching the film, I noticed that there were some pretty awful takes and line deliveries. The dialogue was written so poorly, and these actors, they're great actors. I think they were just doing the best that they could.
I didn't hate it. Like, yes, the dialogue was kind of shitty, but I mean, they did a really good job with it. That's basically what I found, right? Like, they polished a turd, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think this has a really solid cast.
The cast is honestly the best thing about the movie, in my opinion. I thought every single actor involved was almost flawless, especially when you look at someone like Emma Stone and how much she looked like the character from the comics. Now, her characterization was a little bit off, but I think she captured those key bits. You know, the kindness, the spunkiness was pretty spot on here in this movie. And I think that made it all the more tragic in the following film when she finally gets killed.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, Gwen Stacy, Uncle Ben, Aunt May, I thought all of them did a fantastic job with what was on the page.
Yeah.
Again, not the most amazing Spider-Man ever. Definitely didn't top something like Spider-Man 2. But for all the hate that I've heard from this film throughout the years, I was expecting worse.
Maybe that's the issue here. Maybe you went in with such low expectations, it was impossible to go
fair.
below them.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Let's talk about the action. I thought the action was pretty solid. There were a few moments where I think the momentum was killed. Specifically, if you look at scenes like the bridge scene, where we see that Spider-Man actually caught like over a dozen cars on the bridge, but we really only see him actively saving a couple of them. And when he saves that kid, I swear to God, whatever excitement was built up to that point, their decision to cut everything to slow motion and start going with this real operatic score and everything like that, it just made everything feel like it was underwater and took away all the excitement. Like, I didn't even care about that kid anymore at some point. I'm like, whatever. Who cares? Get back to fighting the lizard. What the fuck are you doing?
Where is the lizard?
He ran away.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the other instance I could think of that is when Spider-Man, he's doing his web swinging thing, which we all love to see. It's one of the most incredible cinematic experiences is watching Spider-Man web swing. And in the middle of his climactic swing toward Oscorp, he gets fucking tased. And then he's like sitting on the asphalt for like a minute before getting unmasked and shit like that. I thought they took all the good momentum that they had built up. They squandered it. And I don't think it quite got it back even when those crane operators like gave him the shortcut to Oscorp and everything like that. I was a little bit disappointed in that scene.
For that scene, I literally was like, it's not like he's saving them from a train, right? So they all want to help him. Nobody knows who the hell he is. So why were they trying to help him? Like, I didn't understand why they were doing that. Like, it made no sense to me.
Well, weren't they just following the orders of that, like, foreman guy?
Yeah, he was watching TV and he was like, oh, Spider-Man's trying to get to Oscorp.
Make all these phone calls.
Yeah, but it's like, why?
You know why? It's because New York. Yep. New York / plot. That's why.
To me, honestly, that whole scene with the cranes should have been fucking cut. I hated that scene. It was horrible. It was completely useless. You mentioned the swinging and how it was not great in this movie. I totally agree. In the first movie, I remember seeing Tobey Maguire swing through the city for the first time. Fucking majestic. I think one of the problems this movie has is that like all of what little action is in the movie takes place at night. So it's a little bit harder to see and it's a little bit not as visually impressive, I think. Spider-Man is kind of like this bright, fun character. He can have a dark side for sure, but I think they leaned way too heavily into that in this movie. I mean, even Man of Steel had action scenes during the day, Even when he is swinging too, like the moment where he's trying to get to Oscorp to get to Emma Stone's character, he's freaking got shot in the leg. So it just like totally hit the brakes on the momentum that they were trying to achieve, I think, with the action. It was so inconsistent too. He should not have been shot considering he was dodging bullets point blank from a cop earlier in the film. It's like, where's that Spidey sense when he got shot in the leg?
Well, Spidey sense has always been plot convenient, I guess, is the right term for that. But the thing is, Spidey doesn't need his legs to swing either. So
that's exactly what I was thinking this whole time.
Both hands, swing yourself over to Oscorp, you fucking dunce.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
He wasn't shot. He was grazed.
That's true.
It's like, walk it off, you pussy.
Seriously, man.
Well, he got scratched the fuck up by the lizard later on and didn't quite treat it so poorly.
Yeah.
Right? But I mentioned there was a lack of action in this film. I would say, especially in the first half, I was actually surprised at the lack of action in this film. It's not really until the bridge scene that I think things really start to pick up, because when he was going after like the short blonde-haired crook, that they totally dropped the ball on that thread.
Yep, dropped plot thread right there.
Yeah, I was like, why are we still doing this? Stop. Just move on. That's what I liked about the Raimi movies, is that, we got that sort of catharsis of what happened with him and his uncle right away. And they were able to just move on from there.
Right. As far as the visuals of the film, I think they were largely hit or miss when it came at least to the special effects. What did you guys think of the visual effects? Let's talk about the lizard.
Oh, I don't know if it was just me or I got a bad look at it, but he had like human teeth sometimes when he was talking. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, why is his teeth not like spiky? Like the whole overall lizard design, I hated. I was like, oh, so the supervillain here is Killer Croc. Okay.
Right.
So like, yeah, I didn't care for it. I mean, the special effects on it wasn't the greatest. Like when he got all shot up and he's like healing, it looked pretty shitty, right?
Speaking of the human teeth, you know what this lizard design reminds me of? Sonic the Hedgehog pre-fanboy bitching. It was almost like in this movie we got the bad version of the CGI character.
Ugly Sonic, yeah.
Yeah, we got the ugly Sonic version of the lizard.
Ugly lizard.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's my understanding that this look for the lizard was based off of early Silver Age depictions of the character.
It was based off of his first appearance when he had less of a snout nose. But that's the bullshit look. It would have been better if he looked like a fucking velociraptor just tearing shit up. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, animated series Spider-Man. Like when I hear lizard, that's what I picture. Like the lizard from the 90s animated show.
Yeah. I wanted like the ripped lab coat. I didn't need a naked lizard. I don't know why they went that route.
Sex appeal.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
You see them lizard abs, bro?
Yeah.
Damn.
Did you happen to notice that his eyes never went like green around the edge? It was always tan. Like they just fell a little bit short of being fully lizard.
Yeah, it was like flesh colored.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a trait of most lizards. It's been a while since I've looked one in the eyes.
You can't. Don't do it.
They'll fuck you up. But I know that they did a lot of CGI motion capture work with the actor Rhys Ifans. And he was even saying in interviews that like when the character moves his eyes, that's me moving my eyes. So I think those are his actual CGI eyes.
His CGIs.
I have to say, I was watching it here with my daughter. I don't know if that makes me a bad father because I made her watch this movie. But yeah, she couldn't take her eyes off the screen. Like when Spider-Man and the lizard were on the screen, she was glued to it. And I was like, no, like I will show you something much better.
No, it looks like we have a little Marvel fan in the works.
Her mom likes Spider-Man, so she's always wearing Spider-Man shirts. Like I try and buy as many Batman shirts as I can, but like she has me beat.
I'm going to send you some dynamic dual Spider-Man t-shirts for your daughter.
And I'm going to delete them from the store right away so he can't do that.
Change the order. Change them to DC.
Right. Just to touch on the visuals again real quick. Not only do I think the cinematography was bad, but you mentioned editing earlier. And I have to say the editing in this film was freaking horrible. I know one scene in particular where Spider-Man is coming into Gwen Stacy's room and he's hurt and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And then it cuts. And then she says the exact same line, "Oh, are you okay?" It's like they took the same line from two different cuts and they just made her repeat the line. But it's so obvious. And maybe it's just because I've done some audio editing for like this podcast that I was able to pick that up. But yeah, in the action scenes with like Spider-Man even going up against the lizard in a school, bad editing there, I would have to say as well. It's almost like they didn't frame the camera correctly for the action that they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So you'll see Spider-Man just like zip in out of like any random location in the frame. The continuity felt very off.
You know what was interesting about that school scene? What happened to the lizard at the end of that scene?
He ran back to the bathroom.
Why?
To take a shit.
To leave the way he came in, clearly.
So he did this during the library scene where we had the Stan Lee cameo, and he fucking slammed Spider-Man up against the bookshelf, and then all of a sudden, no more lizard. Why? Where the fuck did he go? Why didn't he kill Spider-Man right there? That was his whole fucking goal for going to the school.
I'm guessing he was de-transforming, but we didn't get that information.
No, in the very next scene that we saw him in, he was gassing the police officers coming out of the sewer again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Continuity error.
Yeah, there has to be a missing scene, like a deleted scene or something. Because, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Even looking at the gassed police officers, like we saw them transform and then we don't see them again.
Until they're being killed.
Yeah, until they're being killed. It's like, did they go through the city causing havoc? What the fuck happened there?
I like to think they went around like eating babies or something.
Jeez.
Like just insane. It was so fucking insane that they couldn't show it on the movie.
So at least there's like some stakes to the film.
Right, yeah. Otherwise they get the R rating if they showed what those officers did.
Did you guys notice like a serious similarity between Goblin and Lizard from the first movie?
In the fact that they were both scientists who experimented on themselves, became green and evil.
Well, and the fact that at one point I'm pretty sure Lizard was hearing another like voice in his head that was himself, right?
That's right. The voices. Very repetitive and unoriginal. Let's go ahead and get into our character breakdown because I want to discuss some of these guys' motivations. Starting with Spider-Man / Peter Parker, who is played by Andrew Garfield. The character's motivation in this movie felt a little bit off to me because we all know that what drives Spider-Man is his guilt from once not doing the right thing, resulting in Uncle Ben's death. But that motivation didn't hit home as hard here as it did in the Raimi films. Here, it felt like Peter more wanted to be a hero just because it was good, and that's it. He straight up went from seeking revenge to stopping the Lizard with no real concept of what existed outside of the Lizard and his revenge plot, which I think hurt the characterization of Spider-Man in this film.
I disagree. I think it's pretty blatant that his whole arc was around responsibility. He said that he has to stop the Lizard because he created him. He gave him the formula. So to me, I don't think he's as driven by guilt over Uncle Ben as he is driven by responsibility for creating this monster and trying to stop that.
That's entirely true, actually. And I think responsibility is just as big a motivating factor for Spider-Man as was his guilt. So you made me look wrong, so I'm going to cut that whole fucking part out of this episode. No, you're absolutely right. No, I think that's a very good point. Responsibility, basically, was his arc. What's interesting, though, is at the very end of this film, he kind of negates that lesson of responsibility by choosing to break his promise that he made to Captain Stacy and tell Gwen that, let's get down, let's meet up, let's keep seeing each other.
Very true.
Well, he pays that price in the next film.
That he does.
But I think that is also Peter's arc. He kind of needs that, right?
That tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's always kind of like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of situation with Peter Parker. And you kind of need to retain that tragic aspect of Spider-Man in order to, keep him appealing. I think that's one of the things that keeps Spider-Man relevant is that he always goes through this shit that a lot of us can relate to.
100%. Like Spider-Man, I would say, is one of the most tragically written characters. Like there's always something bad happening to Spider-Man, right? And you really feel for the guy. And I think that might be part of the reason I enjoy Spider-Man is he's always going through some stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's always like, oh yes, you know what I mean? Finally, I'm getting married. And then, oh no, now I have to give that up to save my aunt, right? Like he's never happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons I really like Spider-Man. I like Andrew Garfield in the role. I like him in the suit. Like when he's in the suit and he's fighting and he's like talking all his shit, especially that same scene where he webbed the guy up to the wall. Me and my daughter were laughing at that. I don't even think she understood what it was, but she was laughing at it and I was laughing. I was like, this is hilarious. I really enjoy that.
She's like, yeah, kick his ass.
Right?
That's cute. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the quipping was a huge aspect because the quipping in the comics came from an aspect of Peter Parker, who was always this powerless figure being picked on, finally coming into a position of power and kind of reveling in that. He was always a little bit like the bullies that would pick on him when he put the mask on. And I always thought that was kind of a fascinating aspect to the character.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go ahead and move on to Gwen Stacy, who was played by Emma Stone. We talked about her a little bit. I thought she was great in the role. One of the things that did bug me, though, was that she did come across as overly motherly. Like when she told Flash, the bully, that she was disappointed he didn't do his schoolwork. Or like when she told Peter to go to the nurse. Or when she was chaperoning the other Oscorp interns like they weren't her same age. It's like, okay, Mom. For real. Because I've worked with interns before. You can't rely on those fuckers to do a spreadsheet, much less represent the entire company. No offense to any interns out there, but
get your shit together.
Get your shit together.
I forget about the original Gwen Stacy. Like when I think of Gwen Stacy, I think of Ghost Spider, right? And like her background and how she's in a band, and you know what I mean? She's a completely different character.
There's also Bryce Dallas Howard in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, true.
Emma Stone was way better than Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard is way hotter.
Really?
Oh.
Dude, there was something about Emma Stone in those like knee-high stockings in this film that I was like, yeah.
Fuck, marry, kill. Kirsten Dunst, Zendaya, Emma Stone.
Oh, MJ, Mary Jane, and
Gwen Stacy.
Okay.
All right, I got this. Okay. Kill Mary Jane, Kirsten Dunst.
Okay.
Fuck Zendaya and marry Emma Stone. That's what I would do.
I second that.
I third that.
It's the only correct answer.
I third that.
Zach?
Yeah, I'd probably kill Kristen Dunst. Yeah, there's no real, like, that's the only option, to be honest.
One thing I have to say about Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy is I thought this was the most successful romance that Spider-Man has had the 3 times that he's been portrayed. I think the chemistry that Emma Stone has with Andrew Garfield in this film is palpable.
Well, they were banging in real life, so...
Right. That's probably why.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's a challenge for actresses to kind of play, the girlfriend role, the damsel in distress role. But I think Gwen Stacy's role in this film was really well written because she wasn't just the damsel in distress.
No.
She just generally came across as more competent and had more agency than a lot of damsels or girlfriend characters that you see in comic book films.
Yeah, to her credit, Gwen Stacy was never the damsel in distress in this franchise until her eventual death.
Only the one scene when she gets thrown out the window and she's dangling there.
I guess you could count that. But she did just hit the fucking guy with the trophy. That takes some,
she did,
some
though.
lady balls, for sure.
But I think you could kind of say the same thing about Zendaya.
Totally. Zendaya's MJ also definitely not like your typical standard girlfriend type role. I would also say that Zendaya and Tom Holland don't have as good of chemistry as Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, though.
Which is weird because they're also banging in real life.
Exactly.
I don't know what that says, but it says something.
Didn't Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst date also?
Yeah, they also hooked up for like a couple of years.
Anyone out there, if you ever want to date a girl, just make like a fan film of Spider-Man, cast her as a love interest, cast you as Spider-Man. It's a perfect record so far.
Let's go ahead and get into the Lizard, aka Dr. Kurt Connors, who is played by Rhys Ifans. With a better script, I think he would have made a perfect Kurt Connors here as opposed to just a mediocre one. Here, he went from this sympathetic character to an evil one, seemingly out of nowhere, largely because I think the movie failed to explicitly state that the aggressive reptile part of his brain was kind of taking over.
Yeah, they didn't explain that at all. He was just started destroying stuff. Like, why?
Exactly. He was like, humanity is obsolete or something, but he was very irrational about it, which was not in keeping with his normal character. And I think they should have stated why.
I didn't really catch that, honestly, until he saved Spider-Man at the end when he caught his arm. And I was like, what? Why? And then I realized, it must be because he's cured of the lizard. And it must have been, his aggressive reptile brain that was making him do all these horrible things. I do have to say that I was not familiar at all with Rhys Ifans prior to this film.
Really?
Yeah.
He was the kicker in The Replacements. Ole, ole, ole,
that
ole.
guy?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I was
that's him.
Sort of familiar with him.
And he was in Little Nicky. He played the son of the devil.
No shit, I just watched that and I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's the blonde one.
Okay, well, did not recognize him from prior movies. Did not recognize his name.
That's the power of acting, my friend.
Yeah, that's fair.
The power of glasses. It's the glasses, I'm telling you.
He didn't have as much clout as, like a Willem Dafoe or an Alfred Molina going into this, but I agree that I think he did a really good job as Kurt Connors, better than I thought he would do, because I thought he was going to do a horrible job, but I was actually really impressed with his non-mocap lizard acting. Just normal Kurt Connors, he did fantastic.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys have anything to say about the other characters in the movie, like Aunt May, Uncle Ben, or Captain George Stacy?
The only question I have, it's not necessarily to do with the movie, but like, why is Uncle Ben and Aunt May always so old? Like, even when Peter was a kid, they were still really old.
So the reason for that is because Peter's dad
Even his dad looked really old. He had a full set of gray hair when Peter was a kid.
That's true.
Like,
yeah. Everybody in Peter Parker's family lineage weren't having babies until they were probably around 40 is what I'm guessing. Even in between babies. So like Uncle Ben is the brother of Richard Parker, Peter's dad. So I'm guessing there must have been like a 20-year gap in between them or something, which I guess happens.
Okay.
But no, that's a great question. All right, let's go ahead and get into our story highlights. So the movie starts off in the past where young Peter Parker is taken to stay with his Uncle Ben as his parents have to flee for some mysterious reason and never return.
So I guess their home was broken into because someone was looking for his research?
Yes.
Or something like that?
Yes, basically, Richard Parker was unwilling to use his data for human trials, and they wanted to get that research because Norman Osborn needed it essentially to live.
I did think it was an interesting start to the film. It was surprising, actually. I knew that Peter's parents were going to play a role in the movie, but I thought it was a pretty good new setup for this like new franchise.
I thought it felt a little Batman-y,
Yeah, Batman Begins-y.
right? But yeah, I didn't hate it.
But what if the second movie never came out? How would you guys feel about this scene, just judging this movie on its own?
Honestly, just like the movie, I forgot about the parents.
That was a great statement.
They're that memorable.
So, in the present, socially awkward but intelligent teen Peter Parker is bullied at school, has a crush on classmate Gwen Stacy, and helps his aunt and uncle around the house. In the basement, he finds his dad's old briefcase and finds possible clues as to what may have happened to his parents.
Why is he like a detective where he was able to just like search through that briefcase? Like he knew something was there. I get it. The reason was something was shifting around. But why was he able to just like figure out how to find stuff? Like, is he a detective like that, or is he like a good investigator?
Well, I mean, it was his father's briefcase. He wanted to see what was in it.
Yeah, but why would he know to look under like a fold inside of a zipper?
I guess he's just naturally inquisitive in that way, or I have no idea. It's almost like he suspected that there would be some kind of hint or something.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Moving on to the film, learning that his father worked with Dr. Kurt Connors, Peter goes undercover as an intern at Oscorp Industries. Although he meets Connors, he snoops around and enters the company's biocable development unit, where bioengineered spiders create high tensile cabling for industrial use. One of these spiders lands in Peter's hoodie and bites him on his way home. Now, I think this goes to your point earlier, John, regarding the inquisitiveness and kind of suspicious behavior that he does. I want to know why Peter Parker decided to snoop around at Oscorp instead of just either calling Dr. Kurt Connors or going up to him, breaking away from the tour group. Why did he decide to almost commit industrial sabotage?
Well, he wasn't following Kurt Connors. He was following the other guy who worked for Norman Osborn because he recognized the same symbols on that guy's notebook that were on his father's diary.
But the point Joseph is making is why didn't he ask Kurt? Because Kurt clearly worked directly with his father.
Exactly. He didn't need to treat it like it was some kind of spy mission. He could have just been like, oh, I'm going to go to Kurt Connors and be like, I noticed you guys are working on this thing that my father worked on. I'm the son. Nice to meet you.
I think part of it had to do was that he got in there under false pretenses. He was in Oscorp under the name of someone else. Didn't want to get into trouble. He was kind of trying to keep a low profile.
To argue that even, as soon as he would have said the name Parker, Kurt Connors, just like he did later on, would have lit up and said, oh, you mean you're Richard Parker's son? He would have known like right off the get.
Exactly. A normal kid would have gone to his house like he did later on in the movie and just been like, can you be my new dad?
I think this scene actually was the least Peter Parker thing ever done, right? Like Peter Parker wouldn't have snuck in. He wouldn't have had to have snuck in to begin with, right?
Because he would have already been on top of that internship program to begin with.
Probably.
Yeah. And then like stealing the ID card, I was like, okay, I guess that's where he gets his like cool points, where you can think like he's a cool Spider-Man, right?
Cool kid steal.
Because he steals.
He's a rebel. He's a rebel without a cause.
Yeah, he's like rebellious and skateboards.
If any kids are listening to this, cool kids don't actually steal.
Nor do they impersonate people like in general.
Especially they don't impersonate people outside of their own ethnicity like he did here. That's bad, kids.
Oh, yeah.
bad.
It's not the first time Andrew Garfield has done that, though. Like in The Social Network, he also played someone who was
That's right.
Latin.
He did play a Hispanic.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
Ooh.
I do have to say, though, I did think it was kind of cheating in that the web fluid wasn't invented by Peter Parker. Like, he said it was, but really it was made by Oscorp.
Right. He just invented a way to shoot it from his wrist.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of lame.
He's a liar.
I didn't even think of that.
I didn't like the web shooters, how they would turn red whenever he would shoot. It's horrible for stealth.
Yeah, why add the LED?
Right. So in the movie, after discovering his new abilities on the subway and looking more into his father's research, he visits Dr. Connors at his house and gives him the formula that will make his cross-species genetics experiments work.
I just want to know how he became so much of a badass fighter right away. Like, he was busting out, like, fight skills that's like, where did those come from?
It's that Spider-Man sense combined with that Spider-Man agility, man.
It's called Spider Foo.
No, it was dumb luck. Everything on that whole fight was dumb luck.
Yeah, with the pole and everything.
He even ripped off a girl's shirt from dumb luck.
Yeah, that was intentional. Everything else was dumb luck.
Back at school, Peter Parker dunks on his bully Flash Thompson. He gets in trouble, and he attempts to ask Gwen Stacy out, but then remembers he has something better to do, which is skateboard alone to Coldplay music.
That I like the scene when he dunked on Flash, because that was another callback to the Ultimate book where he joined the basketball team and he was using his spider powers to become more popular.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I enjoy that.
I never read any of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. Oh, that's not true. I think maybe I read the first one. But to me, this full basketball scene felt very out of character for
Agreed.
Spider-Man. I didn't like it, honestly, at all. Felt like he's just freaking telegraphing his powers to everyone.
It was definitely overdone.
Yeah, where it's like having him like grip the basketball and having Flash try and grab it. And it's like, wouldn't people wonder like what the hell is going on? Or like later on in the film when Peter Parker like catches the football, then throws it and then bends the field goal post. I was
What
like,
the fuck was that?
people know now. People know he's Spider-Man. How could they not?
First of all, that's the most unforgivable part of this movie is that if he were to throw a football across the field using his spider strength at a goalpost, it wouldn't bend the fucking goalpost. The football would explode from the compression.
So many things in this movie are like that, though. It's
Yeah.
like, why?
Yeah, that really makes no sense. Footballs do not have that kind of density to be bending anything, right?
Right.
They're made to bounce.
Exactly. I just couldn't believe it when he told Gwen Stacy that he couldn't go out because he has something to do, and then he immediately went to play with himself. And
Play by
shipyard.
himself.
Play by himself in the shipyard. Same thing. You know, he's just fucking around. He had nothing better to do.
He had to train. You needed that training montage.
Okay.
He's like, sorry, girl, I gotta do a training montage.
This is why he's a social outcast, guys. Peter stays out late helping Dr. Connors develop his genetic formula using reptile DNA. Then he comes home and gets chewed out by his Uncle Ben. He pieces out and neglects to stop a convenience store robbery that he witnesses. Uncle Ben tries to grab the thief's gun, but is shot and killed.
The real villain in this movie is that convenience store clerk.
Yeah.
What a douche.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I will take my 2 cents.
Everybody knows that you can take a penny or leave a penny at your leisure no matter how much you spend.
He was just being a douchebag for no reason. Like it made no sense. And it was like, yeah, you should get robbed, you
Agreed.
asshole. But it was definitely the most accurate Uncle Ben's death that we've seen.
Oh, I had an issue with this Uncle Ben's death because how stupid do you have to be to reach for that gun?
That is dumb.
That is really stupid. I mean, like, I could see if it was an active shooter situation or the guy was being dangerous to those around him, but he was literally fleeing. And Uncle Ben chose to fucking risk his life over probably a couple $100 at most that the guy stole. Like, if it was me, I'd be like, get going. I'm not, you know.
Especially a New Yorker. A New Yorker wouldn't have thought
Yes.
twice. Like, oh, a gun? Yeah, I'm going to get out of here.
Yep.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I would have pulled a Batman right then and
You
there.
would.
You would have gotten
Bullshit.
shot just like Uncle Ben did.
I would have died a hero.
Joe would have been crying over your body. That's what the scene would have been.
I just wanted to be different from Joseph, who's like, I would have let that guy get away.
Not for $100. I could see if, you know, there were actual stakes, but no, that's just
You didn't know
petty
what the-
crime.
He didn't know what the stakes were. He could have just shot somebody.
The convenience store was saying, stop that guy, and Uncle Ben saw that.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything, though. He could say, stop that guy. He just killed someone.
How do you know the gun isn't legal, though? Like, what if it was a legal firearm and then the guy's like, oh, stop trying to steal my gun, and the gun goes off and now you're dead?
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he could have had like a concealed carry permit.
Exactly.
Exactly.
To argue a little bit as to why he did what he did, I think, in like the scene prior, say a person who has the ability to do good should do good, or something to that effect.
He forgot to addend the with great power comes great responsibility line with unless your ass is about to get shot. then do whatever you can to not get fucking shot. He made the wrong call for sure. And he died because of it.
Dead a hero.
I don't even feel bad for him. I feel bad for the other Uncle Ben.
You're just shitting way too much on Uncle Ben. I thought he was fine. I mean, it was a spur of the moment decision. Jonathan, give the guy a break.
Just stick to making good rice, Uncle Ben.
Yes, exactly. All right. So, distraught, Peter goes on a spree trying to hunt down his uncle's killer to no avail. He fashions a costume with a mask to hide his vigilante activity and a pair of wrist-mounted shooters that deploy Oscorp's biocables, becoming Spider-Man. Dr. Connors is pressured to test his formula on humans and is fired for refusing. Desperate, he tests his formula on himself and regrows his missing arm. He learns that his boss is going to test the formula on veterans and goes to stop him, transforming into a giant lizard along the way.
Just to go into Spider-Man's whole vengeance spree against all the criminals, do you think that guy was ever brought to justice?
Hell no.
No.
And that's kind of sad too, because that whole experience with him catching that guy and him about to kill him is part of one of those lessons that Peter learns that is kind of essential to his origin. Right?
Yeah, the unmasking.
I feel like you shouldn't have left that, or at least finished it in the second movie.
Yeah, they should have done that.
That's how the movie should have started, not with the frickin' rhino.
Oh, yeah. Right?
I totally agree. Yeah. So back to the movie. Peter has dinner with Gwen's family and confesses to her that he is Spider-Man. Sensing something is wrong, he swings to the Williamsburg Bridge where he sees the lizard wreaking havoc. He saves multiple cars from going off the bridge as the lizard escapes.
I want to know why he saved one little boy from one car, but not freaking everybody else who was terrified out of their minds hanging over the water in their vehicle.
Same.
One thing at a time. You can't multitask, you know?
He just left. He left him there.
Did he?
Yes.
I was the kid in the car by himself.
That's a great question, too.
Because Dad was like, oh shit, a lizard, I gotta book it. Then afterwards, he was like, oh shit, where's my kid?
Oh shit, I have a kid. Father of the year right there.
Right? For real.
The next day at school, Peter and Gwen talk about his new role as a hero. Peter visits Dr. Connors, who threatens him, and then he tries to warn Captain George Stacy about it, telling him Connors is the lizard. Spider-Man goes into the sewers to find Dr. Connors, who has gone mad and becomes convinced that humanity is obsolete. Spider-Man and the lizard fight in the sewers, with Peter nearly drowning.
This whole scene of him shooting the webs throughout the sewer was so convenient in terms of how the lizards just marched. Can the lizard control lizards? And also, how many lizards live in New York?
The lizard can control lizards, yes.
Oh.
But you're right. You think it would have been a dead giveaway as to his location, and more than just Spider-Man would have noticed all these fuckers crawling around the city. I thought it was a nice homage to the comics, though. I remember Peter Parker doing this exact same trick in the sewers. It was during that whole spider totem arc, and he became more spidery and in tune with his spiderness abilities.
The concept is cool because that is how spider webs work. You know what I mean? But you put them right in the middle of the thing, one little swipe and the whole thing would have just fell apart, right? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Not to mention the sound traveling from the stupid game he was playing.
Oh, yeah. What was that? It was like a bubble.
Bubble bobble or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Bust a move.
Yeah. So the lizard finds out Spider-Man is Peter Parker through his camera, and he visits Midtown Science High School via the toilets to attack him. The two fight, and the lizard, for some reason, just disappears back into the sewers in the middle of the fight. Spider-Man goes down there and finds Connor's lab and learns about his plan of releasing the formula among New York City's populace. After gassing some cops, Lizard makes his way to Oscorp to use a gas disbursement technological thingamabob. Spider-Man has Gwen go there to create an antidote. As Spider-Man tries to get there, he is tased and unmasked by Captain George Stacy, who lets him go to save Gwen.
How did Gwen know how to make an antidote?
Because she's the world's best fucking intern. She can run that whole entire company as the intern. That's why.
I mean, she was working at Oscorp.
She's an intern.
It doesn't mean anything. Oh, I work at Oscorp. I know how to make fucking antidotes to really difficult, complicated serums.
I bet you the security guards even know how to do it.
Oh, jeez.
I do feel like the gas disbursement angle was very Batman Begins.
Yeah, with the microwave emitter that vaporizes the gas, the water supply. Yeah. Absolutely.
Stupid.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the whole first person swinging thing? I kind of liked it, actually.
It was done at a time when 3D was trying to come back in a big way. I saw the film in 3D in theaters specifically because I knew these scenes would be in it. And I have to say that they were pretty lackluster. They weren't nearly as exciting as I thought. I don't know if it was because of the 3D conversion, didn't have enough depth of field, or some other reason, but I think I actually liked it more seeing the movie in regular 2D.
You could really tell when the scenes are supposed to be in 3D, though, when you see it in 2D. Like the slow motion car scene with the kid, you could tell that was supposed to be a 3D scene.
Even like the last shot where like Spider-Man is like shooting the web at the camera. Right there, I was just kind of like chuckling. I'm like, oh no, the 3D, it's going to hit me. It's real. I can reach out and touch it.
Actually, even that little strand of webbing coming out of his wrist toward the camera, that barely registered in 3D to me. I didn't really quite know what was happening until I saw it in 2D. Meanwhile, back to the movie, Gwen hides from the lizard at Oscorp, who finds her, but also doesn't give a flying shit about her, and goes about his day, even though she tries to melt his hand off with a Bunsen burner and aerosol spray.
Made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, that was so weird. She was like hiding in the Oscorp closet or something, the supply closet, and they were playing like this crazy piano music, super scary and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, Lizard busts through the door, and she was like doing that weird underbite thing that Emma Stone does, where she was like, ah! And then she fucking fries his hand, and then he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I was just reaching for this gas disbursement thing, have a nice day, and walks away. There was no point to it. It was so stupid. I remember seeing that in theater thinking like, what the fuck?
It's kind of like they went out of their way to not make her a damsel in distress.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. So a bunch of tower crane operators line their cranes up to help Spider-Man swing to Oscorp. He gets there and fights the lizard. Captain Stacy tries to help him, but gets shanked 5 ways by the lizard's claws. Spider-Man replaces Lizard's formula with the antidote, curing the lizard and everyone he transformed. I actually thought this was a pretty good final battle.
It was fine. I thought it was a little easy the way he just kind of like solved the problem before the countdown. I kind of wish like the worst case scenario would have happened. Like people started to turn into lizards around New York City, and then Spider-Man had to find a way to stop that.
Well, he had a way.
Right. But not if the machine broke or something like that, you know. It felt cut a little bit short.
It wasn't a great plot device. I think we could all agree.
When Peter was trying to switch the antidote from the virus, did he not look down at Lizard like 3 times before he actually did it?
Yes, he was taking his sweet-ass time.
What in the hell was he thinking?
He was thinking, oh, I still have more time on this countdown. I need to do it like right at the last possible second.
Yeah, he definitely had time. We never talked about Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy. Now, he's a lot younger than he was in the comics, but I think it makes sense because for some reason, everybody had like elderly parents in the comics, including like Aunt May and Uncle Ben. But I thought he did really well in the role. And, you know, he's a comedian and everything, but he played serious excellently.
Yeah,
agreed.
I also thought he did really great in the role. I think his character was just really well written. In the comic books, George Stacy died while Peter Parker was fighting Dr. Octopus, and they knocked over a chimney that fell onto the dude. Jeez.
Yeah. So before dying, Captain Stacy makes Peter promise to leave Gwen alone. Gwen gets pissed at him for essentially abandoning her as she grieves her dad. But after a while, at the end of the movie, he was like, psych, just playing, girl. Bring that ass over here. And the movie ends.
That's one way to put it.
He literally did that to her. Like, he just abandoned her during like one of the most trying times of her life. Didn't tell her why. I mean, she figured it out because she's smart, but I thought it was kind of a dick move to wait until conveniently she was done grieving before saying, let's get together again.
I hated every moment of Peter being that piece of shit that he was there. Like, I know he made the promise, but I was like, dude, her dad just died. Like, she needs you more than ever. Like, you could have at least been there for her, right?
Right.
And then try and slowly, like, get away from her, right? And be there for her in her time of need, right? However long that takes.
Right.
You're not doing anything Spider-Man-y, right? This is your first big Spider-Man thing. So
exactly.
You should have been there for her, then keep the promise to the dad of like, okay, now it's getting more serious. I have to end it with Gwen and move on.
And then tell her about the promise.
Yeah.
Like there was no reason why he had to keep that a secret from her. Your dad, before he died, made me promise that I would not get involved with you because my life is going to be dangerous. So hopefully you understand why I can no longer see you. Is it that hard?
It's not that hard.
Men.
So, so I thought that was pretty shitty, and I didn't understand the whole point of that because, again, the next movie comes and it's like nothing ever happened.
That's right. Well, at the beginning of the next movie, he's still waffling, right? Because he sees her dad as a ghost, and he's like, sorry, can't do it. And then at the end, he was like, psych, just playing girl, let's go to London. He's a piece of shit boyfriend, for sure.
Yeah.
And then he kills her.
Oh, God. There is a mid-credit scene for this movie. In it, the gentleman visits the lizard in prison and asks vague-ass questions about Peter's parents, reminding everyone that that was, in fact, still a plot point in this movie. and then disappears.
And who the hell is that guy?
So the gentleman was a character from the comics. His brother is the one that killed Peter Parker's parents, who, I don't know if you guys know, Peter Parker's parents, Richard and Mary, were agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics.
Yeah.
They were spies. And the gentleman in the comics was just this other shady guy dealing with espionage. And in the movie, they had him behind the whole Oscorp superpowered thing that eventually would have led to Sinister Six and was what gave Harry Osborn his powers in the second movie, that whole subsect of the organization.
Oh, okay.
It was weird. I don't know how he disappeared from Dr. Kurt Connor's cell.
Or even appeared.
Yeah, it was bizarre as hell and kind of pissed me off, actually, when I saw it the first time. Because I was like, that was fucking pointless.
I didn't even realize there was an end credit scene.
Oh, really?
I totally missed it.
Don't watch it.
You turned it off right away. You're like, ugh, thank goodness I'm done with this film.
Pretty much. That's pretty much exactly what I did.
I thought that guy was Electro because of the lightning flash.
A lot of people thought that, yeah. But it turned out later he wasn't. But that's the end of the movie. I think the movie is about 3 stars, which is like a D on a graded scale. 60%. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's good. I think it merely ekes by just on the talent of its cast alone for the most part. I think it has story issues, editing issues,
cinematography issues.
Yeah. But Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man, as I rediscovered watching this film. So at least it has that going for it. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I agree. When I was watching it, I think the first half of the movie is maybe 3.5 stars. But by the end, by the time we get the lizard, the whole film just kind of literally devolves. And so, yeah, 3 stars makes sense to me.
I keep going back to the fact that it's better than Love and Thunder. Not by much, but yeah, I'm in agreement. It's definitely a 3. No better than a 3. I do like the cast. I agree with Joseph on that. The cast was really, really good. I don't have any bad history with any of those actors. I didn't actually have any history with Andrew Garfield before this movie, to be honest. There was a bunch of CGI that looked good for its time that I thought this time around definitely needed the improvement, but I'm also looking at current CGI and thinking it could be actually considered better than some of the stuff that's coming out now.
That's fair.
Because of the obvious video effects stuff that's going on. But I can't argue that it's great, but I definitely can't say it's worse than Love and Thunder. So yeah, I'm sticking with a 3.
Okay. Well,
Combo breaker?
Combo breaker. I like I've been saying, I like this movie. I don't like it that much to give it anything higher than a 3.5. I give it that little bit of extra because Andrew Garfield's my favorite Spider-Man. And I don't know, I enjoy these movies more than the original 3 movies. So to me, the original movie, I gave it 3. So I like it a little bit more. So I give it that extra half a star. The cast was just phenomenal and they polished a turd.
So yeah, it seems like we're all in agreements that it was a mediocre movie. It's just mostly meh.
I think it definitely doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But really what this movie makes me want to do is rewatch No Way Home again. I know that it's back in theaters again. I'm not going to go fucking watch that.
The more fun stuff version. Yay!
Especially when I owned the movie at home, I'm not going to go back to pay the theater. I read descriptions of the additional scenes that were included in that version of the film, and it just doesn't seem like it's worth going to the theater for. We truly appreciate having you guys both on the show. It's been a long time coming. We love you guys. Your show's great. Go ahead and let listeners know where they can listen to you and when.
So, yeah, we're pretty much on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. Anywhere you can really find podcasts, you can find us.
Yeah, just look up Media Night with the Boys. That's us. You'll see the dope little logo that Jonathan created for us. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, you can find us on YouTube. I enjoy making the videos. So we have the audio and we have video version of the podcast, right? And I'm trying to post a lot of video game footage on the YouTube page as well. Yeah. So yeah, check us out on YouTube. And I have to say before we wrap this all up, we greatly appreciate you guys having us on here. And like I was telling Jonathan when he was on our show, me and John both basically created this podcast because you guys gave us that inspiration to do that. And we love being part of the podcast. So, yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we love having you guys a part of the podcast as well. It's so much fun on the Discord. We try and plug the Patreon every episode because it's already so much fun. And it wouldn't be as much fun without you guys.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Thanks so much.
Great couple of guys right there. It's so awesome that they started their own podcast and that we get to interact with them like this. I always love these guest episodes.
Yeah, I think some of our guest reviews are some of our best episodes.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys are checking our guests' work out. If you like movies, TV shows, video games, music, listen to Media Night with the boys. But that does it for our review. Let us know what you thought about the movie by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Instagram or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you can also find a link to our Patreon page where we offer ad-free episodes of the show, bonus content, including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server. Again, check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, which is linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month. In our next episode, we will be reviewing Season 3 of the HBO Max original series, Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I have a lot of TV binging to do because honestly, I only got through Season 1 just a few days ago, so I have 2 whole seasons of Harley Quinn to watch. But that's not a horrible thing because I do enjoy the show.
I haven't even started Season 3. I was waiting until the last minute, and apparently I waited a little bit too long, probably. So I'm going to binge all the episodes this week, and we'll tell you all about what we thought about it in our next episode. But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Ken Johnson, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, Dustyn Balcom, Miggy Matanguihan, Brendan Estergard, Nathaniel Wagner, Levi Yeaton, Austin Wesolowski, Nick Abanto, and AJ Dunkerley for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away.
True believers.
Do you like movies? How about TV shows? Or perhaps video games?
What's up, everyone? I'm Zach.
And I'm John. We're Media Night with the boys. We both consume a lot of media. So much, in fact, that we feel like we need to share it.
Each week, we will discuss TV shows, movies, video games, and more, as well as have the occasional guest to join us.
You can find us on most major podcast platforms and on YouTube every Monday. So come check out
Media Night with
the
boys.